All right, welcome back, everybody, to Real Estate Bites, coming at you most Fridays at the lunch hour, trying to bring you some good information about the real estate industry, what's going on here locally as well as nationally. Like to bring news to you, some stats to you, and sometimes pull back the curtain, let you guys see what happens behind the scenes, because for what's customer facing in real estate is very little of what actually goes on. And so today, I want to talk to you guys. I've got a special guest here, Tony LaRizza from Russell Insurance and Investments, going to come on talk to us about umbrella policies. So Tony's been on in the past talking about different things that are affecting your costs that affect home insurance. And this is one of those things. An umbrella policy is sort of an extension of your insurance policy, whether it's for home or auto or whatever. And I'm bringing Tony up here to educate us about it because I think it's an important topic that most people don't even know about. So, without further ado, Mr. LaRizza, how you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you coming on, giving me your time, and bringing you good information. So, let's jump right into it, Tony. What is an umbrella policy?
So a personal umbrella policy, there's a commercial and a personal. So I'm only talking about the personal side today, but personal umbrella policy is extra liability over your auto, your home. Let's say you had a boat, motorcycle, anything like that. It'll go over all that stuff with as one policy and one premium for everything. So typically they start at $1 million. You can usually get all the way up to 5 million if you needed to, with approval from an underwriter. But typically it starts at $1 million. And if you had a home and 2 autos, and let's say you had no younger drivers on the policy, it typically costs about $350 for $1 million of coverage.
That's an annual cost, right? The annual rider?
Correct. Annual. Yep.
Okay. So why should people get it? Why should people consider it?
I mean, just being in the insurance industry for 25 years, I feel everybody wants to sue for everything. Any chance they get, people are wanting to sue. I mean, for me, it makes me sleep better at night knowing I got $1 million behind me and I don't have to come up with $1 million if something happens. So,
so tell me real quick, Tony, what are some typical, caps on coverage? Like what's a typical home or auto covered for with liability?
So on average policy, I would say homeowners liability is usually about 300,000 and auto policy is usually 100,000 bodily injury each person, 300,000 each accident. What that means is if I cause an accident, let's say I'm driving a car, I hit you and you sue me, the 100,000 and you're the only person in the car, the $100,000 the max is they're going to pay. If there's multiple people in the car, the maximum they're going to pay is 300,000. Now, for an umbrella, you have to have higher limits than that to even qualify for that extra $1 million of coverage. So in an umbrella situation, you have to have 300,000 still okay on the homeowners, but auto, you have to have 250,000 each person, 500,000 each accident minimum in order to even qualify for the umbrella policy.
Okay. And so you get in that accident, you got $100,000 of coverage, right? For liability. That is simply going out to pay whatever damages are caused to whoever was in the accident, right? That's not covering any sort of legal fees or nothing, right?
Correct.
And so if you get in an accident and somebody gets seriously injured, their medical bills are going to skyrocket past $100,000 very, very quickly.
Exactly.
Right? And yes. I mean, it doesn't even have to be like, necessarily life-threatening. If they just get banged up with a handful of broken bones and it requires a week in the hospital for mending and whatever, right?
Exactly.
Those bills are going to go up and they're going to go towards and beyond $100,000 pretty quickly, I'm guessing.
Right. And a lot of people, we don't do this at our agency, but there's some people that, they know they just need basic insurance and they'll say, we want state minimum liability. We will not write that for anybody. And state minimum liability is this: 25,000 each person, 50,000 each accident. So if I get in an accident with you and you're in the hospital for a week, that $25,000 is going to be gone in a heartbeat and the rest is coming out of my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we won't do it for anybody. It's just not enough coverage. And like somebody will say, well, this car's 20 years old and it's falling apart. It has nothing to do with the car. It has to do with you getting sued for causing an accident.
I mean, roundabout, this wasn't a question I had asked you before we started here. So I know you're not totally prepared for this question, but give me a guesstimate. How many of all the insurance policies you have written, and recurring customers you got, what percentage would you say has a balloon policy in place?
Like an umbrella policy?
Oh, I'm sorry, an umbrella
Yeah.
policy. Yes.
Yeah. I would say percentage wise, 15%. If I'm
Yeah,
lucky.
pretty low, right?
Yeah, it's very low. Yeah, because again, like you said, a lot of people don't know what it is. They don't know how it works. But when if you have the chance to explain it, then they understand, and then it gets people thinking. I mean, chances are you're not going to have something like that. But I had a real life situation that just happened in August, and I wish they would have had an umbrella policies. So I kind of get you. I will leave names out of it, but I'll get into the details of what happened. So
what happened?
So a friend of mine I grew up with, his son just decided to get his license. He just turned 17. A week later, not even a week actually, later, he got in an accident. He caused the accident. He had somebody who was coming towards him in a car. He was going the other direction. He had a green light thinking he had a green arrow and just turned right in front of her and hit this lady. So in the other vehicle was a 30-year-old lady that was driving, a lady in her 60s in the passenger seat, and a child in the back. And when the accident happened, it didn't look extreme, but the lady in the passenger seat went into cardiac arrest. They did CPR at the scene. I didn't know what the result was for about a month. And then I got a call from the insurance company saying she passed away.
Wow.
So
what a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. So I find this out. And of course, the worst case scenario, the son's charged with vehicular homicide. Or vehicular manslaughter, one of the two, but whatever it was very extreme. So they went to court several times, and eventually the insurance company paid out the full policy limit of $500,000. He had, like I said, typical standard for us is 100, 300. He had to step up. He had 250, 500. So they paid out $500,000 for the total claim, and then luckily for him, the other family came to this person that caused this and said, we don't want to punish your son. Like, we don't want this, punishing him for the rest of his life. It was an accident. He didn't mean to do it. Everybody's sorry it happened, and he got lucky because they could easily have sued him for millions.
And so expound on that, Tony, because there's a hospital stay, those bills. That's kind of the obvious and easy thing to understand, but there's more that could be levied in a lawsuit, right? I mean, you're talking about emotional damages and trauma and things like this that attorneys come up with to continue suing for. So it doesn't end at medical bills, and there doesn't need to be a death for people to sue for emotional trauma, missed work. Like, what are some of the other things, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to like an extreme case, like let's say he caused that accident and she was paralyzed, and she was like in the prime of her life working a job where she's bringing home a decent amount of money. I mean, like they could sue for that. I mean, it could be, let's say she was working for the next 20 years, and they'll say, okay, well now she can't work, and now we're going to sue you for that. So there's no telling how much a claim could go. I mean, it could go to millions. You just never know.
And in the nature of a lawsuit, if you don't have the money in the bank to cover what the insurance companies don't, they take your assets, right?
Yep. They can garnish your wages. They could take your assets. They could take your house. I mean, it could get extreme.
Wow. And so, all said, you're talking about, and folks, listen, I know, I feel the pain too. My insurance has gone up incredibly the past couple of years. Everybody's has, but for an additional $30 a month, not quite $30 a month, $27, $28 a month, you have a significant amount of protection. At least $1 million, right? What's a $5 million umbrella policy cost?
Again, it depends on your assets. So let's say it's one house, 2 vehicles, no young drivers on the policy. For $5 million, you might pay about $1,200 to $1,500 a year for $5 million coverage.
Okay. So yeah, I mean that's a significant increase. Now you're talking about an extra $100 a month, right? Versus $27 a month. But nevertheless, $27 a month, and you get covered in addition to your policy, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
Your policy kicks in, whatever that covers based upon your policy, and then the $1 million kicks in above and beyond that. Listen, folks, something to think about, something to consider, especially like you talked about. This family had a new team driver. You got multiple drivers in a household. Car accidents, they're not becoming less and less, right? They're becoming
Right.
more and more. Is there more vehicles on the road, more drivers on the road? High five.
Yeah.
Right on.
So here's two more things I want to say about umbrellas before I go. The people that should have an umbrella the most are people that have young drivers in the household. If you have a swimming pool or if you have a dog, those are the highest liability issues right there. So those are the people that definitely need one. If you're considering one, you have one of those situations, I would definitely get an umbrella policy. Now, again, if you have a younger driver in the policy, they're going to charge a little bit more for that umbrella than they would just, somebody that's over 30. So if you have a younger driver on there, it won't be like 350. It could be like 425 or something. So the other thing I want to say is there's an endorsement you can add to a personal umbrella policy. It's called excess, uninsured, and underinsured motorist coverage. So this one actually protects you and your family. Let's say I'm driving down the road, somebody hits me with no insurance, or they have state minimum liability, and I'm paralyzed. My policy will pay under the auto policy for uninsured motorists, and then it goes to the umbrella for another $1 million for excess uninsured motorists. That's a separate endorsement. That's an extra charge for that. But I had an attorney in the past tell me that's more important to him to have that coverage than the actual liability, because he goes, I trust myself and how I'm going to drive. I can't trust whoever else is out there. And if they hit me, and I'm injured or paralyzed, or if I die, I want my family protected. So that's an extra. It depends on how many vehicles you have. That's how they charge that. So that's an extra, let's say $50 per vehicle. So if you had 2 vehicles, that's extra $100.
A year or a month?
A year.
Well,
yeah.
I think I need that, Tony.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody needs it. I mean, you just never know. I mean, hopefully nothing ever happens, but that endorsement is just as important as the liability itself, in my opinion.
Hey, man, as always, thanks for coming on and giving us great information, Tony. I appreciate you, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, man. You have a great day.
All right. You too.
Thanks, Tony.
Bye.
Bye-bye. That was Mr. Tony LaRizza joining us and giving us some fantastic information. I just learned about an umbrella policy a couple months ago, and obviously these things have been around for a while. These are not, you don't hear about it from your insurance agent because, they're not trying to needle you for more money, or they've already got your business. You're in their book, and they're, they get their recurring commissions from the policy, and they're not talking to you about it. But, as much as I believe that the insurance companies are just a shade away from the mafia, there is a reason why we have insurance, and there's a reason why you need these insurance policies. And, when you're talking about an environment where medical costs continue to climb, where legal fees continue to climb, where everything that we shop for continues to climb, having these protections in place may be a good idea. And again, so he mentioned a car accident, but it could be something that happens in your home. It could be a storm comes by, you got guests over, whatever, something comes through a window, cuts, damages a guest, whatever the case may be. These policies are important to consider. At a minimum, go and talk to your agent. If your agent isn't talking to you about this stuff, Tony's information is still there at the bottom of the screen. I'll leave it up until I put the stats up here in a bit. But these are conversations that are important to have to protect you and your family from, unforeseen disaster. All right. So that said, let's get into this week's statistics. All right. Let me drop this banner here and look at these stats. All right. This is episode 84 here. And I didn't do stats last week because Jay and I ran long, but let's talk about it. So, this is the low inventory season. There's only 331 houses on the market, houses in condominiums. That's single family houses. Only 331 houses on the market this morning in Lorain County. A year ago, the number was slightly less. So year over year, has been an increase in inventory. However, it's still exceedingly low considering in 2019, in March of 2019, this number was above 1,000. It was around 1,100. Um, there were 55 sales that closed last week in Lorain County. The median square foot of those sales was 1,752 square foot. Median home value was 282,500. Median square foot value was $162.29 a square foot. Again, this is the metric that we're tracking to see in real time what's happening to prices. So here in a couple weeks, once Q1 2025 is completely wrapped up, we'll take a look at that median square foot value in a chart form and see what direction these prices are heading. But we had a bit of a standstill in prices over the winter, but I'll tell you, once February rolled around, it seems to me that home prices started to creep up again, and we're seeing some slow inflation in home values here. The median days on market for sales last week was 45. As you can see here, the interest rate on a conventional 30-year note continues to improve. We're at 6.71%. So we're not seeing the kind of volatility that we had in the past, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's just been steadily declining here for the past 2 to 3 months, which, that's not bad. That's not a bad thing. The big sale of the week last week was in Avon. It was $830,000 new construction where there were no pictures. So that lets us off the hook, and it lets you off the hook. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me once again on Real Estate Bites. If you like this stuff, listen, please share it with friends and family. Let them know what's going on. We try to keep this thing under a half hour every Friday on lunch break. Tune in, get some good info. You're going to learn some things that may help you out here, whether you're a buyer, seller, homeowner, whether you're just interested in real estate. We're bringing good information to you guys. So as always, thanks for joining me. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. I love you, people. I'll see you next week.